lecture series on human resource management, we were learning about selecting the right talent. And in the previous lecture, we discussed about interviews as an important tool for selecting the right person, not only for the job, but for the organization as well. But before we start with the orientation, which is the topic for today's discussion, let me briefly explain as to what happens once the candidates are finally selected. So, what happens after the selection process and before the actual orientation of the new hires begins. So, the next step in the selection process is the job offer to those applicants who have crossed all the previous hurdles like the preliminary interviews, the selection tests and the final rounds of interviews. And this job offer is made through a letter of appointment that contains a date by which the appointee must report on duty. The appointee must be given reasonable time for reporting to the new job. After the job offers have been made and candidates accept these offers, certain documents need to be executed by employers and the candidates, and one such document is the attestation form. And this form contains certain vital details about the candidate which are authenticated and attested by him or her. These attestation forms will be valid record for future references. There is also a need for preparing a contract of employment. So, when the job offer is given, simultaneously a contract of employment is also designed and created. The basic information that should be included in a written contract of employment will actually vary according to the level of job, but there is certain common checklist or certain ingredients of we can say the contract of employment, and these may include the job title for which you are being employed, what all duties you will be performing, the date when continuous employment will begin, what is the rate of pay, the allowances, overtime, shift rates, what are the modes of payment, what will be the hours of work including lunch breaks, overtime, what will be the length of notice period, what are the disciplinary procedures, etc. Now, what is, or we can say, why do we have such contracts? So, the reason these contracts are made is to restrain job hoppers so that people don't keep on joining and then leaving and then joining another organization, and also to protect knowledge and information that might be vital to a company's healthy bottom line, and also to prevent the competitors from poaching these highly valued employees. So, that is the reason why we have the contracts of employment. So, now coming to our topic for today, that is orientation, we will talk about the process, issues and challenges. So, the learning outcome of today's discussion is we will learn about what is an employee orientation, what are the elements that are covered in these orientation programs, what are the objectives of orientation, what are the various types of orientation programs. Every organization will have a certain different kind of their orientation depending upon the size of the organization or the tasks that the employees have to perform. So, there can be a number of orientation programs. Then what are the requisites of an effective orientation program and what challenges are there in designing an orientation program or conducting this program for the new employees. So, let us begin. First, let us learn what is employee orientation. Well, it is the process of introducing the newly hired employees to their new workplace, and this provides the basic organizational information that each employee needs to feel prepared for their new team, their department and their role in the company. An effective employee orientation makes employees aware of the company policies and expectation, handles essential paperwork, and answers any questions or concerns they may have before they transition into their new positions. So, what will the orientation convey? So, there are three types of information that needs to be taken care of while designing your orientation. So, the first is the general information, which includes the daily work routine. So, what will be the employee's daily work routine? Then they are also informed about the firm's history as to who were the founding fathers, what was the objective of this particular organization, what are the operations, products or services that this organization deals with, and how employees' job contributes to organization's needs. So, how do you fit in? How do your job contribute to the organization's purpose? And then there is a detailed presentation of organization's policies, the work rules and employee benefits. So, these are the three types of informations. These are some of the elements of an employee orientation program. Like you can see, there are employee benefit information, personnel policies, daily routine, facilities tour, safety measures and regulation, company organization and operations. Now, let us learn about some of the categories that are included in an orientation program. So, the first and foremost are the organizational issues. So, as I stated, the history of the employer, the organization of employer, names and titles of key executives who are working, the employee's title and department in which he or she will be working, what is the layout of physical facilities, what will be the probationary period for an employee. In certain jobs there can be a probationary period, in certain jobs there might not be a probationary period. So, if there is, all these are mentioned in the during the orientation program. Then there can be product line or services provided, the overview of production process, company policies, rules, disciplinary regulations, all these are the organizational issues. The next can be what benefits the employee will get, like the pay scale, the pay day, vacations and holidays, rest breaks, what are the training and education benefits that an employee might be getting, counseling services, insurance benefits, retirement programs, rehab programs. Then there is also a brief introduction, introducing you to the supervisor, your trainers, your co-workers and even employee counselors. The next category is of job duties. So, apart from duties, you will also be informed about the job location, where will be your job posting, or what is the physical area where you will be working, what are your job tasks, what is the overview of your job, what are the job objectives, and what is the relationship of your job to other jobs. So, that is also being discussed in the orientation program. Now, we must also understand that what are the objectives of an orientation program. Why do we need an orientation program? So, employers have to realize this thing, that orientation isn't just a nice gesture put on by the organization. The idea behind the entire orientation is to make new employees feel at home in the new environment. So, whenever a new employee joins a new organization, he or she might be having anxiety or stress related to how to adjust in the new environment, new organization, new job role. So, you must make them feel at home. So, that is the basic objective of orientation. And many a times the new hirer or the new employee feels inadequate comparing themselves with more experienced employees, and they are also stressed out how well they will get along with their co-workers. So, we always have these types of anxieties whenever we go to a new place. So, to reduce anxiety, these orientation programs are made. So, any employee when put into a new or a strange situation will experience anxiety that can impede his or her ability to learn to do a job. So, whenever we come across anxiety, whenever we have stress, our ability to learn slows down. So, any organization would never want their employees to take time in learning and performing. So, that is why these orientations or orientation programs have come into being. So, proper orientation, it helps provide guidelines for even behavior and conduct, providing the new employee the information on job environment and on supervisors by introducing them to the co-workers and by encouraging them to ask questions. So, they are not only given information about the environment, but they are also told how to behave and what should be your code of conduct, how you are going to behave with your co-workers, with your supervisors, with all other levels of managers. But at the same time, they are also encouraged to ask questions freely. The next objective of these orientation programs is to save time for supervisor and co-workers. So, simply put, the better the initial orientation, the less likely supervisors and co-workers will have to spend time teaching the employee. So, many a times the employee joins, and when there are no orientation programs, the supervisors and co-workers, they have to spend a lot of time teaching and training the new employee. And that rapport building and relationship building also takes time. But when there is a good orientation program in place in the organization, the initial basic information and the knowledge of what is to be done is given right hand in the orientation program itself. So, it saves a lot of time for the supervisor and co-workers. So, the next objective is to reduce employee turnover. Now, this is very interesting concept, that employee turnover increases as employees feel they are not valued or they are put in positions where they can't possibly do their jobs. So, when a new employee joins an organization and nobody is there to tell him what to do, where to sit, whom to report, he feels lost in the new environment. This is just like a new student joining a college from school. You need time and you are not very comfortable going around making friends. So, you feel that anxiety and you feel that stress, and you don't feel like studying or going to college because you feel lost, you don't have friends. So, the same way, when a new employee joins an organization, he feels that nobody even cares to tell them what job has to be done, how to go about my job, what resources I have, and if I do not have any resources, whom to contact. So, that kind of a scenario, it makes the employee feel not valued, and that is one of the major reasons why employees quit during the first year of their employment. So, orientation shows that the organization values its employees and helps them provide the tools necessary for succeeding in a job. So, the next objective is to develop realistic job expectations. It is also important that employees learn as soon as possible as to what is expected of them and what to expect from others, in addition to learning about values and attitudes of the organization. So, every employee must be clear as to what are the job expectations, what does the supervisor expect him to do, when to do, how to do. So, that clarity helps the employee understand the job and have better engagement so that he can be retained in the organization. Now let's learn about the importance of orientation. So friends, starting a new job can be really overwhelming. Therefore, a structured job orientation can help a new hire ease into role with proper guidance and resources. Its benefits for new hires will include getting to know the organization. So, all new employees need to learn more about their place in the organization, what place they are working in the organization, and how they can relate to the corporate culture, the general rules regarding the company policies and procedures. And a job orientation helps employees understand the company's mission and values, perks, benefits, and support for career growth. So, the better or the sooner they get this information about the organization, the better they start understanding their own role, their own contribution, and they can gel into the organizational culture. So, when you do not have any such kind of an information about the organization, or the organization does not care enough to give you that particular information, you feel lost and you feel that you are not being valued. So, this information helps the employee understand the organization in depth. Then also establishing a positive and productive working relationships. So, new hires can sometimes struggle to become part of their new team. So, as I said that many a times the new hires do not gel up with the team, with the members of their department, and they struggle. Now, when they are not gelling up, their productivity, their performance will definitely be affected. So, a job orientation focuses on welcoming them into the group and identifying their strengths and values at an early stage. And this improves their chances of developing a sense of belonging, so they are able to connect with their peers to do their best work. So, when you are welcomed, when you are valued, when your strengths are identified, that brings in a sense of belonging for the organization. And when you have a sense of belonging, your engagement will improve, your productivity and performance will also improve, and that is what an organization wants, right? So, the next point is that it reduces confusion and it sets the tone of the job. So, when the new hire joins an organization, there are certain points of confusion. As I said, that there might be ambiguity as to what is to be done, what is the expectation. But a job orientation is a great time to make sure that the new hires are not confused about their role at the company. It helps to set their expectations so that there is clarity as to what is expected from me and what I can expect from my organization. What are the career opportunities? What are the growth opportunities? So, as an employee, I also have certain expectations. So, a orientation program gives you a clarity about what all you can expect from the orientation, from the expectations. So, communicating specific tasks to be performed can further clarify what employee needs to focus on. Now, these were the benefits of orientation from the point of view of the new hire. But at the same time, the organization also benefits out of these orientation programs. So, what are the organizational benefits of orientation? The first one is getting to know the new hire. The company can use the job orientation as an opportunity to learn more about the new hire and their career goals. So, when a new hire joins, an organization must also try to understand that what are their expectations Certainly, as an organization, you expect something from your employee. But doesn't the employee also expect something in back, in return? That is how this cycle goes on. You provide certain things and then the employee provides certain things. But that clarity has to be there. So, having a job orientation leads to better relationships between the employee and the management, because now we are aware of what all career goals or what all expectations the new employee has brought into the organization. Next point is that it improves employee retention. So, I have already elaborated upon this point that a job orientation can help employees adapt to their new workplace by giving them a favorable first impression, and this first impression is by making them feel valued, welcoming them, giving them the freedom to express freely and frankly and honestly. So, when you give such an environment to them, certainly you are making a good impression on the employee, and this improves their retention. And in fact, a research states that employees who participate in a structured job orientation are 69% more likely to retain or remain with their organization at least for 3 years. The next benefit for the organization is reduced time to productivity. So, the orientation process helps employees to become familiar with the requirements of their new role and the organization sooner. So, since they understand the job, they can become productive much faster, and this improves the return on investment made by employers. So, employers love this aspect of orientation because it reduces the time it takes for the employee to become productive. So, now let us come to the next part of the orientation, that is the types of orientation programs. So, according to David DeCezo, there can be 4 broad categories of orientation programs, and these are formal or informal orientation program, individual or corrective, serial or disjunctive, investiture or divestiture orientation programs. So, let us learn about all of these briefly. So, what happens in an informal orientation? The new hires are directly put on jobs and they are expected to acclimatize themselves with the work and company. So, nobody is coming and giving them any information, but they are given particular time so that they learn by doing. So, in contrast, the former orientation, the management itself has designed a structured program which is executed when new employees join the organization. Now, the choice between formal and informal orientation will depend on the management's goals. The more formal the program, the greater likelihood that the new hire will acquire a known set of standards. So, in a formal program or a formal orientation, the new hires will acquire only some structured set of standards because that has been developed by the management itself. But when we have an informal, the employee gets to know many other aspects of their work and the organization also, because nobody is tutoring him. So, the next category is individual or collective orientation programs. So, the name itself is self-explanatory. When I say individual orientation, it means that a single employee or single hire will be given a warm welcome, and in the individual approach, it is likely to develop more heterogeneous views than in the collective orientation. And individual orientation is more likely to preserve individual differences and perspectives, because Here each individual is given an individual orientation, but so orienting each person, however, separately is an expensive and a time consuming process, and it denies the new hire the opportunity of sharing anxieties with fellow appointees. So for example, if I join an organization, so in a individual orientation, I will be individually oriented. I have my own orientation program, but I will not be able to share my feelings with other appointees because I am being oriented individually. But this program is, as stated, it is expensive and time consuming. So the collective orientation of new hires, it solves the problems that were stated in the individual orientation because it develops a homogeneous views. It saves time and cost, and it checks anxiety and gives the opportunity to individuals to express freely, because when we are working in a group or collective orientation is there, each one of the individual can express their feelings. The next is serial or disjunctive. So orientation becomes serial when an experienced employee inducts a new hire. The experienced employee acts as a tutor and a role model for the new hire. So whoever is the senior will be giving an orientation to the new hires, and this maintains traditions and customs. So whatever he has learned, he will pass it on to the new hire. So all those traditions and customs are maintained in the serial orientation program. But when new hires do not have predecessors to guide them or model their behavior, this orientation is called a disjunctive orientation program. And this produces more inventive and creative employees as they are not burdened by traditions. So nobody is tutoring them, nobody is asking them to follow these traditions, but so they become more creative and more inventive. The last one is the investiture or divestiture. It relates to the need for maintaining the new hire's identity, and this is relevant for most high level appointments because a person in high level appointments, he is appointed as an executive on the basis of what he or she can bring to the company. They are appointed for the skills they have, the knowledge they have, the competences they have. So we need to maintain their identity. So investiture orientation seeks to approve usefulness of characteristics that person brings to the job. So we are approving whatever you bring to the organization. And the new hires are given freedom to select their own office furnishings, subordinates, so that they can make a team of the people they like, and to make other decisions that will reflect on their performance. So to improve my performance, what all things I need, I will be freely expressing that, and the organization will provide me with that. That is investiture orientation. However, in the divestiture orientation, we seek to make minor modifications in the characteristics of new hire, and this is done to seek a better fit between a new member and the firm. So here we are not accepting the person as such, but we want to make minor modifications in their behaviors. And these strategies are followed for inducting new hires into military, professional football, police academies, fraternal groups, religious cults, and even self-realization groups. And the idea behind is to undo some old mindsets of the new member, instilling a new set of values or norms to fit in the new organization. So these were all about what is orientation, what are the elements of an orientation program, and what are the major types of orientation programs that we learnt right now. So we will discuss about some other aspects of an orientation program in the next part of the lecture. Thank you.